Okay, here we go. Week two, a little bit of a busy week for us. Um, the plan. So this is my fancy thing. Okay. So I did this. Yeah, okay. So here's the work. So for every week, there's a grammar test. It's a self-test. It does not impact your grade, and it's everybody loves little taking grammar quizzes. So I encourage people to do that. Um, Probably takes like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe. Anyway, so do that. It doesn't affect your grade. It's good for you. It's like vitamins, I guess. Um, and then the introduction that they'll talk to you about, this is going to be sort of where they're explaining what this week is about. Then there's the lesson, explain you exactly how to do the assignments. There's the discussion, and then there's the actual assignment, right? So these are just all what a regular week basically has a grammar test, has an explanation of what's going down, has an actual lesson that deals with parts of writing, arguing. Then there's the discussion, and then there's the main assignment. So I'm going to start. I'm going to talk about the discussion first, and then um, I will stop the recording and do some more things. Okay, so here's the deal for the discussion. Let me go to the discussion real quick just to remind people about the discussion. So this is week two discussion. You can get to it by modules. I'm reminding people that this is where I basically post things to try to help everybody, right? So this is where I will post this video. But all my notes and examples and ideas and things like that to try to help people as we write the different parts of the essay. So you want to, I put it here because mostly we all have to be here at some point. But I add something to it every day. So you would just want to check in and see what is there. Okay, so now that's probably where this PowerPoint will eventually go too. So here's discussion week two. So in two rich paragraphs, answer the following as related to your stance for your argument essay. So we're moving right ahead with you're having a position, something that you are going to argue. This is the part of the essay where you're trying to pick a subject that's not too broad and not too narrow, but has enough so that you can write about it. Um, so here's what we're doing to help generate this. Um, you're trying to locate an opposing viewpoint in an article. Okay, so if you've already found a source, for example, and probably it's in support of your position, but in that article there may be a discussion or pointing out of what an opposing position might be. So what you're trying to do is try to find this opposing viewpoint, and what you're practicing is the counter argument strategy. So the counter argument strategy is I acknowledge the other side's view. I bring up the other side's view. I say, yeah, they're right about this one thing, but overall, I'm right and they're wrong. So the concession part is where you identify something that you can say, oh, okay, yeah, that idea is true. And then the refutation is where you then reassert your own position. So you don't want to end up like arguing against yourself and like writing a whole paragraph about it. Um, so in this one, you're trying to sort of, for the discussion post, find one, and then you're trying to do this process basically, right? So here's the opposing point. Here's the part of it that I think is valid and smart or okay or whatever. Um, I'll try this thing now, even though I always like to write. Right. So three parts to this counter argument thing. You state the opposing point, right? So you introduce a criticism that's opposed to your point. So then you find some way to agree with it. This is sort of the confusing part, but you're trying to agree with it. So if I'm doing physician-assisted suicide, that's just an easy one as an example, meaning because it sort of has these two sides already. But if I'm for that, right, I'm for physician-assisted suicide, what I need to do is point out the view of the other side that I found. Hopefully I found it in an article, right? So I say, okay, so the other side would say that this practice could be abused, and then you would have doctors just killing people for no reason. My concession could be something like, I am also concerned about, people abusing the rules, right? So I've identified something that we have in common. Like they're talking about you can't do physician-assisted suicide because they'll abuse the rules and kill everybody. I'm going to say, yeah, I also am concerned about abuse, and then I could do my refutation, which will be, whatever. People have a fundamental right to decide what happens to them or something like that, whatever. So you reaffirm your own point using logic, reason. The best is to have research help you, right? Because you can be like, okay, yeah, I get that part that you're thinking of, but here's the thing. Okay, and so these are some examples of different things to look at when you're trying to figure out what your opposing view might be. Like you're using the same facts, but you can draw a different conclusion than the opposing view. An assumption that the opposite side is making, that might be problematic. Definitions of words are always difficult. Like they're defining the word this way, and I'm defining the word this way. Evidence might not be so great. Like it could be old, right? Like they're sort of like they're using outdated information. Guy there. Okay. So anyway, so this is actually right. This is a PowerPoint that I will also post just by itself in the discussion. Okay, so you find a way to agree with some aspect of the criticism. So I'm just sort of repeating this because what I don't want to happen and what can happen is people basically they look at the other side's argument and then they just write all about that. Like, here's actually some good things about this or some bad things about this. All you're doing is identifying one of the main opposing views, finding a way to sort of connect with it, agree a little bit, and then refuting it. Right. This is how you bring it up, right? One might object here that, or it might seem, I always do things like, I don't know, some people might say, or some opponents of this position might argue, or like, so you're trying to use this idea of some on the other side would say this, but, and then I go in and try to explain why I'm right and they're wrong. Reaffirming your own point using logic or reason or research. So anyway, this is practicing just this counter argument process. That's the point of it. Is to be able to, and the reason you do it is because it strengthens your own argument, because it shows that you know the issue and you know the other side, and you have thought about it and you can argue against it. And when you make this move, when you do this whole little process, you actually strengthen your own position, right? Because you're not just saying, here's my position. You're saying, yeah, I know one of your things, but also this is truer than yours or whatever. So it actually strengthens your overall argument. All right. Now let's take a look. Okay, so here's what I just want to make sure that I restate what the discussion is. So you're actually writing two paragraphs, and in those paragraphs, you're dealing with these three things, right? So you're going to explain the opposing position. That's one thing to discuss. You're going to make, the concession thing where you make some sort of connection to the other side's position. and then you're going to refute their position. So you're doing these three things, and you're doing those in 2 paragraphs, however you want to structure that. And then, like every week, there's the follow-up post. All right, so 2 paragraphs. You want to use sources. You want to use an article. You also want to cite the lesson or the textbook. So pretty much the best advice is always have 2 sources for discussions also. So have an outside source and then have something about the lesson from the lesson or from the textbook. That also reminds me, I want to move. So I posted last week, but I want to grab it for everybody. I posted the citations for those things, like how to do those specific, like lessons. So I would like. Oh wait, that's the wrong week. So I'm going to take that and then post that again.